A man named Vic is shown at the start of the film riding a bicycle and arriving at his house. Sitting directly outside the home, his wife Melinda is staring at him in amazement. We learn that they have a little daughter in the following scene. Her mother is yelling at her inanely while she is listening to her favorite song. Entering the room, the man is asked by his wife to select an outfit for her. Afterwards, his wife asks him to get her black shoes, which he gladly complies. In essence, this man follows his wife's instructions. They attend a celebration, where he drinks beer and chats with friends with his wife. Melinda recognizes Joe, an old friend, and initiates conversation with him, which Vic, his spouse, can see. Melinda leads his friend into a private area and begins kissing him rather quickly. Vic is aware of the situation. Despite their eye contact, Melinda continues to indulge in her fantasy. When this was not enough, Melinda starts to dance on top of a piano to grab everyone's attention. Right after, she starts to play the piano and makes everyone happy. Regardless of her bizarre acts, Vic smiles at her as if nothing has happened. Later that night, Joe talks to Vic and thanks to him for letting him see his wife Melinda. Vic tells him to recall a man called Martin McRae, who recently got missing. Vic tells him that he is the one who caused him to vanish. Vic informs Joe that if he keeps repeating the same error, it won't be a comedy. Soon after, Joe departs the property. Melinda, Vic's wife, is not amused by what he did to her buddy. Later that evening, when Vic conversed with their babysitter, Melinda shows up in the kitchen shirtless. Vic becomes agitated and attempts to shoo her away, which infuriates Melinda to no end, and she leaves. We learn a great deal about Melinda's character. She is a reckless and self-centered individual. Vic also keeps snails as a pet as a hobby. Vic finds out a few days later that everyone knows he threatened Joe by telling him a Martin McRae joke when he gets together with his pals. Additionally, they clarify that Melinda is ill since she acts in such a public manner around Vic. Melinda learns of this at home as well, and she instructs Vic to apologize to Joe. She asks him to supper on Friday night. Joe knocks on the door on Friday and finds Vic there to greet him. Vic responds to his anxious question by joking that Melinda isn't at home. Vic assures him later on that they will chat and eat some seafood, but he gets to know that Joe is allergic to seafood. Vic gets sent to put her daughter to sleep and read bedtime stories to her. Vic finds Melinda and Joe enjoying fun together after telling them a bedtime tale. Joe anticipates an apology from Vic later on since the latter made a joke about killing Martin McRae. Vic phones him an Uber and tells him this wasn't a joke. Vic and Melinda are conversing with a writer while seated at a reception one day. He makes jokes about Martin McRae and labels him a killer. Vic also dances with another woman. Seeing Melinda is jealous and later compare herself to the women. She also tries to do things with Vic while he is driving. Later, while Vic and Melinda are watching their daughter play, he gets a call from his bank which was about Melinda's bank account. He gets to know that she sent $3,000 to someone who plays piano, and he starts to research this person further. He ends up to a person who is an expert pianist and extremely good-looking. Right there, he also encounters Melinda flirting with him. At night, Vic welcomes Melinda and asks where she was. She is looking pretty drunk. Vic shakes hands with the guy when Melinda invites him to their party the next week. His wife is having sexual relations with another man, which he discovers again. Due to her reckless nature, everyone heads inside as it begins to rain. Melinda goes to see how the pianist is doing because he isn't showing up. Shouting, she realizes he's dead within the pool. Everyone runs outside when they witness this and tries to save him from the pool and give him life, but sadly, nothing succeeds. Officers begin questioning Vic about the obvious, but nothing strange was observed during their conversation. Afterwards, he queries Melinda about her fear of him. She claims that since he ended their lives as a result of her, she is not afraid. They invite their pals around for dinner later on. He orders his pal to cease proclaiming to others that he is a murderer. He is highly skeptical, and he and his wife Melinda would occasionally meet to discuss this. Vic was strolling around one day when he notices several cameras in his wife's vehicle. He notices his spouse seated next to a man identifying himself as a psychologist. Subsequently, he discloses to his friend's wife that he and Melinda hired a private investigator to look into him, causes the pair to start yelling at one another. Vic encounters Tommy, a friend of Melinda's. One day, arriving inside the home, Melinda gives Tony a hug as though he were her spouse. Tony was the first American she had slept with, she tells Vic as they converse. Tony blushes and bursts into a fit of laughter. Vic looks somewhat upset by all of this. Later that night, they begin to play nice music and savor the cuisine. Before Vic, they begin to dance in a very strange way. As they ascend to his bedroom, Vic also witnesses them. They glance at each other as he notices that she is going about her daily business. Melinda wants to meet Tony in a few days, and Vic will force him to sit in his Jeep. He leads him to a location that is rather remote from the city. He keeps questioning about Melinda and his past relationships. He gets out of the car, picks up a big rock, and hurls it at him. Vic takes little time to take his life. Immediately after, in order to hide his identity from others, he covers his body with a large boulder and submerges him in the water. He returns home satisfied after the encounter. They make plans to have a picnic in the same spot where he killed Tony the following day. Subsequently, he unintentionally notices that the body is floating above the river. He finds out at night that she is conversing with Don, another man. She confesses her love for him and begs him to spend the night in her room. He returns to the same location the following day to correct his error. Melinda manages to find Tony's wallet within Vic's office. As Vic is attempting to push Tony's body into the river, a man appears out of nowhere. He questions him about his behavior when all of a sudden he notices a hand emerging from the river. When the elderly man notices this, he begins to flee, and Vic follows after him on his bicycle. After a full minute of chasing, the elderly man is hit with an accident. The scene from the movie's opening reappears as Vic returns home. The film finishes here, and we also witness Melinda placing Tony's ID within the fire without reporting it to the authorities.